like as you know, you have a quite experience being the managing manager and controlling the teams, like managing the teams remotely, not in the office, but especially remotely. So I want to know how is that experience for you?
Gotcha. So, you want to know just my experience with like managing remote teams and individuals?
Yes, like how you want to, how you able to manage and like collaborate with them. Like the marketing projects, it's like diverse, and we need to collaborate with the product team depending on the type of project we have. Like not the marketing team, but we need to collaborate with other departments. So how would you manage that to stay in time and complete the like project in time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's through communication, delegation, clarity are the main aspects. Now, our team of remote reps, our team is about 20 people now at Audience Lab, the company I'm kind of wearing the hat for now. I run a couple different companies, but Audience Lab, we have the largest team and we've grown the most in the last 16 months or so. So I've had a lot of experience with, managing growing teams, communication, collaboration, delegation, clarity, making sure you're putting, people, if you're delegating tasks, in a position to succeed, which is within their skill set, their expertise, and what they're brought on to do. So keeping people within their roles and their comfort zone to an extent. And I would say, in addition to that, is utilizing certain softwares or tools. We utilize things like ClickUp or Airtable or Notion, or things that organize products, and the whole team is invited and everything is kind of structured. Step one, delegated to Ray. Step two, Daniel, right? And everything's just listed, labeled, and clear.
Yes, that is great. Like how you have a systematic processes to do everything step by step and make sure that the assigned roles are clearly communicated. And but the contingency also one of the like contingency planning is also one of the main aspects of marketing, even in general in team. But that contingency planning, how will you make sure that like it is communicated well throughout the team and everyone is clear about what they need to do and how they need to like identify the risks and mitigate them?
So I'm sorry, you cut out you a little fast at the end. Can you just clarify?
Yeah, sure. I'm asking like how do you identify potential risks or challenges like in contingency planning while you are doing the projects and assigning the roles and everything?
Got it. So for contingency planning specifically, number one, when you do anything, you have to give it a pretty thorough assessment, kind of weighing the pros and cons. So whether it's a new marketing campaign or something like that, when I'm looking at contingency planning, I'm looking at a few different demographics of like, what my objective is, what the specific offer is, what the ideal market is, all things like that. But I'm going to kind of weigh the pros and cons of using multiple platforms, right? Should I be using email plus ads plus SMS plus this? So I'm going to look at all the avenues for outreach for success, and then I'm going to identify the best options, right? And that's where I'm going to start. So where I'm doing contingency plans, there could be multiple offers, it could be multiple channels of outreach, could be multiple different messages or copy or creative. But once I do that, I'm gonna kind of do a bit of an assessment and say, hey, I think this plan, the SMS campaign with this messaging has the highest likelihood of success. That's where we're going to start. So that's kind of what I would start with there.
Okay, so this is about the approaching to the contingency planning thing, but what models or like the theoretical frameworks that you use, like agile project management type of thing, or this ISO 3100 framework, like that. What like that type of models do you use in your planning?
I don't think I use really a framework for my planning, to be honest. I just think I have an open line of communication. I actually go a little bit by feeling out the market, the messaging, what's needed, and then talking with my team, and just getting an open feedback loop of collaboration between other team members. So in the early stages of planning out a new campaign and multiple approaches and contingency plans for if this doesn't work, or if we want to double down on things, or if we want to go with a different offer. Early on, I don't think there's a whole lot of process to follow. I think that comes in a little later.
Yeah. Okay, so can you share an example where you have like the contingency plan being the critical part in solving an issue?
Say again, you're going a little fast there.
Oh, sorry. Like, can you share an example of you have done many projects till now? Any particular project that you think that contingency planning has been a critical help in resolving an issue that arose, like ongoing project?
Yeah, so a live example.
Yeah, either it's in the past projects you have done or currently going on projects where like you think that like doing this contingency planning have been helped you to complete the project successfully?
Yeah, I mean, I could give a pretty recent example. Just, Black Friday had just passed recently, and
Yeah.
we always try to have some type of, Black Friday offer for numerous reasons, which are kind of, I think, go without saying. But every time we're doing a Black Friday offer, and especially now being in this industry for years and doing them for multiple companies and offers, there's always last minute tweaks or things that you need to have, or you need to have multiple different types of offer and messaging and outreach approach. So we just did a Black Friday special or offer, I should say, where we started the planning back in September. Everything didn't actually get finalized and launched till literally the Wednesday before Black Friday, because there was so much internal, or I should say, um, kind of preparational messages and soft launches and just feedback and email campaigns and lots of tweaks to do with the pricing and the offer and how we were crafting the ads. So we had a lot of different moving parts that took about 2 months of planning, and we probably had, a total of 8 different contingency plans, for lack of a better phrase, different approaches or different thoughts. And it turned out to be very successful. I'll just share my screen like super, super quick here, and
Yeah.
show you one example. So for Black Friday, as you can see here, can you see my screen here, Keerthi, or is it taking a minute?
Yes, now I can see.
So you can see, like, going into December, which our Black Friday special ran literally that Thursday of Thanksgiving, which I want to say is the 28th off the top of my head. And we cut it off the weekend after Black Friday. So it basically ran through this date. And you'll
Yeah.
see in just 6 days in December, our audience lab company collected over 68,000 and over 56,000 in monthly recurring revenue. So just to give you some scope for this, 68,000 in 6 days. November, we did a little over 78,000 in 30 days. So to
Wow.
come and do 68,000 in 6 days obviously shows that the plan or the offer and the campaign was a success.
Yes.
And we got in just so many more deals in the last 10 days. We got in more deals probably in the last 10 days than the prior 30 days.
Oh,
So that's just the result of everything that happened. But that's just one example of where we had a lot of different thoughts and structures, that things fell off that we thought wouldn't work. And then other things that we thought might have been like the sixth best approach got moved up to the first or second. So there was a lot of moving parts. And eventually what we launched and what we ran worked pretty darn well.
okay, that's great. And congrats on getting that new achievement in just 6 days.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So what is the biggest obstacles you face like when you create and like execute this contingency planning process? Because we can see the market is rapidly changing, the trends are rapidly changing, and we need to be updated and be able to adapt to that and make sure the project was a success.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, first off, is you have to see if contingency plans are always necessary. I think sometimes when you're very good at whatever you're doing, marketing, sales, you could have a physical e-commerce product. Doesn't really matter. I think you should have kind of your workhorse, your Trojan horse, your this is my flagship, my core thing. And then contingency plans are other things down from there, right? So whether it's, again, different offers or trying to go into different niches and industries. But I would say the biggest obstacles that I face is, number one, realizing if I want to put a lot of time and planning into contingency plans, or I think my number one approach is going to be solid, and I don't really. So I think it's really about dedicating the right amount of time and planning to it, and the odds of actually needing contingency plans. And do I need multiple or just one? So I think those are some of the challenges and what you really have to look at. I don't want to
Okay.
put too much time into contingency plans if my first thing's going to work and I never needed all this. Why did I put 10 hours of prep and team delegation hours into something that's not needed? So I think sometimes people overlook that. You know what I mean?
Yes. Like they give too much time on planning rather than focusing on the core project.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. But how do you balance flexibility and detail that is needed in the team? Like as you said, you will be using emails or SMSs and being discussions and be able to clearing communication and collaborating with assigning the roles and everything. But how is that flexibility? Is like it's not only for you, but the team members need to be available at the time to make that needed changes on the last minute, if like to be able to have a project to be successful. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little, and I might be a little different in people in this aspect, but I do a lot of it by feel. I like to read the market, the industry. I make a lot of data-driven decisions, and again, being very communicable with my team and making sure also one thing I've been putting a lot of focus on internally is making sure I'm showing up in all departments. So although I run sales and have something to do with marketing, I jump on with operations, I jump on with customer support just to see what's happening in all branches of the business. Matter of fact, in the next hour, I'm riding along with one of our onboarding support technical experts, which is not my area, not my department, not what I'm good at, but I just want to see how he's handling the calls and just having your eyes and ears on all aspects of the business. And that way, I think your team is a lot more open to communicate because you're actually on their level, right? You're actually on their calls. You're riding along, seeing how they're doing. So it's a little about leading by example, but it's also a little about feel and opening up that feedback loop.
Okay, okay, I get it. Like you make sure to like communicate with every department and see everyone is on the same page.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like okay, this is a very good thing that you do. And how do you think the leadership qualities come into play in managing? Like it's not just one leader that would be involving here. Like as a marketing and sales head, you would be involving and the operations head and the customer service. So how do you manage to collaborate with everyone and make sure that all the department team members are also clear about the roles and are ready to face, identify the risks and mitigate them? And do you think like the leaders are needed at every step, or it is okay to train the team members and like give them space to make their own decisions in doing the project or like in identifying risks?
That's probably a case by case basis, but I'm more on if I'm bringing somebody on, I'm bringing them on because they either have a skill set or an expertise or actually enjoy tasks that so they're either better at me or they enjoy it more than me if I'm delegating and outsourcing that number one. But I think kind of the qualities that define a good leader and that you're looking for, and then if you are to delegate and give more leadership and flexibility to your team members comes down to number one, leading by example and feeling like you're actually part of the team and you're not above them. I think that's a big factor that a lot of people just feel like their manager or their boss or their CEO is so much on another level that they don't really feel comfortable going to them with all the situations. They
Yeah.
almost feel like they're kind of untouchable. I think number two in leadership is having a vision, being able to see what each step is and what's going to come down the road, having a vision and a purpose behind it. I think number three when it comes to leadership, a certain amount of experience is there. I can't delegate leadership tasks to somebody that's never showed they've led in the past or that they have the skill set and the abilities and the characteristics to do so. And then I think this all keeps tying back down to communication, communication, communication. And that's all about number one, am I communicating clearly so this person knows their role, their task, their objective? Number two, have they kind of confirmed that, right? So it's like I delegate, I confirm that they can do this, and I delegate and give clarity through communication, and then confirmation. Hey, this task it requires this to be done by this date. Can you handle that? Yep, I got it. That's down. So having people confirm the deadlines and the tasks and making sure that they're on the same page. And then lastly comes to holding them accountable. If you have a team member that keeps missing deadlines or projects and just not doing what they say, you have to have a discussion with that person. Then you have to make an assessment. Are they the right fit?
Yeah. Okay, got it. And how would you evaluate the effectiveness of the contingency planning, like in the like success project? Like, how much do you think the contingency planning plays a role in the success of a project? And how would you uh, how would you evaluate it? Do you take like feedback from the team members, or it depends on the result of the project whether it's successful or not?
Yeah, I think it's always data-driven decisions would be my answer. Yes, I take feedback from the market, from my team, but the data doesn't lie. Numbers don't lie. Whether either people converted or booked, or people bought or converted, or they didn't. Like so, I always try to make data-driven decisions off anything, whether it's media buying campaigns, whether it's landing page click-through rates and opt-ins, whether it's actual closed deals, like I showed in Slack there. Like it's always the data always drives my decisions. And the data is the number one way I will judge the success of a campaign.
Okay, that's great. And how would you like make sure that, like you have said that you make sure that everyone is clear about roles and the communication and collaboration plays a big role. But how would you make sure about the teamwork type of aspect? Like you as a leader are available and as a team member you are available. But let's say if you just delegated tasks and given them time to do the tasks about the team members, so how would you make sure that they collaborate well and they communicate well among themselves, even though you are not available
Yeah,
at
well,
times?
it's giving them the structure to to do it in a similar way that I would. So if I was to delegate and give people, and I do, I certainly have team leaders where I'm pretty hands off, but I still jump in once in a while to be there. But it's not like I don't want to be a micromanager. If I'm going to give somebody a management or a leadership role, I want them to run that department, but they're also going to do it within structure. So they're going to have to make sure as a department head that they're hosting team meetings and clearly communicating down to their staff. And again, just giving them the frameworks and constantly giving them mentorship. So usually these are people with a desire to want more, to not just be an hourly or salary employee, but to want to be a leader and more of a, whether it's a performance based or equity or ownership stake in the company, somebody that really wants to kind of, put themselves in the mix. I mean, it's great to have team members, but we all know salary or hourly employees, whether they do a great job or not, as long as they show up and punch the clock, they're getting paid. But I want people that almost feel like they have some skin in the game, that the better they perform, the better they'll be compensated. And those are the people I'm looking to level up.
Okay. So, based on your experience, what advice would you give for like the people who are wanting to be get up in their role, step up to be managers, or take up on that leadership roles to be able to successful in planning contingency and overall have a good scope to make that project to be successful and even make sure that team works, assign the roles well, and do everything as a leader.
Yeah, so what I would look for, what advice I would give people is number one, don't overthink things. I think a lot of times, once you get in a leadership or management role, you start to overcomplicate and overthink things. So keep things clear, realistic, and simple. Number one, as I kind of said about judging successful campaigns or about making tweaks and contingency plans, utilize data and the feedback loop from your market or from your team members. If you're getting constructive criticism, look at it that way and don't look at it as a deterrent. Anytime somebody's upset or has a mishap, that's a learning experience where we can stop that from happening again. And there is going to be a little trial and error in any new role when people are leveling up. I would also be relatively detail oriented and accountable. So you have to be accountable for your own actions as well as hold your team or your staff members accountable to their duties. And then I would say be a bit malleable or adaptable, right? Don't be too rigid, be a little flexible, and just assume that things aren't always going to go to plan. So those are some of the things I would advise people to take into account or to maybe focus on if those are things they hadn't thought about.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Ray, for giving an interview.
You're very, very welcome. Hopefully that was helpful and dropped a little value. Last thing I'm going to share, because we kind of talked about this real quick before we end real quick, is let me just share my screen one more time. And I'll show you something that I think is relevant. Now, this one wasn't specifically for contingency plans per se, but I think it's still relevant to so many things. And this is a document that I've ended up creating and using for kind of private clients. As you see this one on my screen, it says setters kickoff research. So this one is primarily for setters to do in whatever role they're in. And this is kind of just a template, or at the top it says make your own copy. But why I'm showing you this real quick is I do this with one-on-one private clients that are business owners, that are experts, that are agency owners, that are coaches, consultants. And what we always really dial in on, which I think is relevant to a lot of this, is like, this is what I'm talking about with clarity. So know the niche of the industry that you're serving or that your products and services are going to be most prevalent in, right? Number one. So my whole team and all my setters know, hey, we should be going after and talking to people in the AI, the sales, the consulting, communication, and done for you or implementation agency. What's our primary offer, right? So this one's a little different because we have multiple and my team's all trained up on that. I have my own product information. But really quickly, the one I did for somebody last week was AI automated technical customized systems. Like don't overcomplicate it. Just state your core offer really quickly, your one-liner to the market. So I think a lot of times when people start explaining their offer to their staff and their team, they start explaining all the deliverables and the pillars and the this and that, and it just gets lost. Just really quickly, this is what we do and this is who we help. Then making sure that, your team members, if you're doing marketing, if you're doing advertising, we need to have a pretty good idea of our ideal client. So really quickly, my team knows to be looking for people who are creators, entrepreneurs, vision-based individuals, sales pros, business owners, internet market, etc. I think we talk about, and you know this term, not a lot of people will, Keerthi, but you know what PDOC stands for in our PDOC's research. I think it's very, very important for anybody that's doing messaging angles, DM setters doing outreach on somebody's behalf. Those are the four kind of core problems that industry is facing. Because when we're talking and communicating with people on any level, and we're trying to get them to convert to watch a free resource, to attend a masterclass, to book a call, to whatever that is, I think we're better off staying at these surface level problems right off the bat. Hey man,
Yes.
what if I can help you, charge what you're worth? Or what if I can help you have an effective sales process that both nurtures prospects as well as closes ready buyers today, right? So like staying about those core options. And then the last two aspects are really um, integral in actually getting results. So number one, you should know your immediate objective. For these setters right now, specifically, they had to go through and make sure that they know their PDOX research and the four particular, pain points or problems in their
Yes.
market. Make sure they have access to all their links, resources, product info for their offer. Begin their implementation and get in discussions consistency, and ultimately get about 2 or so bookings per day. So now that you know the objective, the last aspect, which is very important in anything. So this would be the same if I was laying out a marketing plan with a whole bunch of contingency plans. My team would know the niche in the industry we're hitting, the specific offer that we're promoting, the ideal client, the pain points, and then we get into the strategy and the approach,
Yes.
right? Which is very, very important. So for DM setters specifically, they need to dial in their platform. Am I doing Facebook, LinkedIn, email? What's my platform and my approach? Then I would join specific groups or pages in conjunction with your audience, your niche in your industry, your colleagues, your competition. Next, go through your specific KPI charts and start getting in your minimum requirements. Optimize feedback loop to improve. Then, as I say, double down on productive activities and drop groups or maybe other things that aren't as productive. Once we can isolate and identify productive activities, we rinse and repeat and double down on those. And then I think it's very important for people to hold themselves accountable to the metrics or the amount of hours they committed to their role.
Yeah.
So again, that breaks it down very clearly what you need to do to succeed. Again, not necessarily based around marketing campaigns and contingency plans, but I think all these are really important. Knowing your objective, the strategy and approach, the main messaging points, the main ideal client, the offer, and the niche in the industry. So I thought that might be helpful to share and just run through with some people.
Yeah, sure. It definitely helps. Like at the end of the day, it's important to have that foundations master. Like if we master the foundations, we can do the contingency planning and everything. But to be clear about the foundations is what helps to understand what we are doing and how we can identify the risks and mitigate them. I think this is also will be a plan. Like it would be useful for that contingency planning. And
Yeah,
thank you so much,
you're
sir, for
exactly right.
sharing.
The
Yeah.
foundations are exactly that. And that's what I've noticed. No matter how I'm working with people, those are always going to be relevant. The niche, the industry, the offer, the ideal
Yeah.
client, the strategy and approach, and then the primary or main objectives. So if you can isolate those in whatever you're doing, whether you're an appointment setter, a business owner, a sales rep, if you can kind of isolate those, it can give you a very clear, and that wasn't complex. That was pretty straightforward. You don't need to overthink it. That's what I'm saying. If you have clear dialed in, hey, these 6 things are important. Let's dial these in, make sure I have them identified, then go do the implementation.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, it was nice chatting with you again, and hopefully this was helpful.
Yes, yes.